Hey, good to see you again. I feel like it's been forever since the last time we chatted. It's good to have you back. Boy, what has come up? What a good question, right? Like, what has risen to the surface of our subconscious mind, of our processing, of our understanding? What's bubbled up and percolated throughout the last couple of days? For myself, I feel like there's been this opportunity to watch myself. I know we talked a bit about that with the cards over the last few readings. And so I've really been trying to encapsulate that, integrate that into day to day life and experiences. So, how am I witnessing my life? How am I observing? How does that empower me, right? Like, so often we would rush into things and be so sure about what we are to do, how we know the situation. And don't get me wrong, we have a good understanding. We have the experience. We have an awareness that we're working with here that has served us well in the past and will continue to do so in the future. But we're not here to work on the things that we know. We're not here to think about the stuff that we have a pretty good handle on. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's good to go through those things on a regular basis. What I'm inviting us to do, and what I invite myself to do through this process, these conversations that we're having, is to go, okay, so I understand that my life is about A, B, and C. Here's a typical situations have changed drastically in the last few years. My typical situations, what would even a typical situation be? When we find ourselves in the healing work, which means, in my context, taking a look at the realities of situations rather than the stories that I've been telling myself over the years, I quickly realize that there is no typical situation because the stuff in the past is the past. And so each current experience that I'm dealing with is a reflection of where I'm at currently, letting go of the things of the past, and being able to see things with fresh eyes so that I'm able to look and consider different courses of action. And therefore holding space for myself to step into that new potentiality, those new possibilities. Previously, you know, unforeseen, unknown, and heretofore unexpected. So the idea of having anything typical these days just isn't the case. And in fact, that's been the case for a few years now. Why? Right? Why? How can life become unexpected on a regular basis? Aren't we dealing with the same things day to day? Thousands, like 70,000 of our thoughts being recycled. This is the fun thing. When you start focusing on the things that aren't the same, then we have that opportunity for change. And the most beautiful kind of change, which is the change that you're not anticipating, not the change that you're planning, nor the change that you expect to a certain degree based off past experiences, what you've learned from other people, or what you've read about and researched or witnessed in popular culture. As I like to say, there is a rainbow of experience outside of us that we have not even glimpsed, imagined, envisioned, heard of, that is within our reach. And yet, because we don't anticipate it, expect it, know about it, we pretend it doesn't exist. And we do that not even consciously for quite a good portion of our life because we're so busy telling ourselves stories and coming up with plans and feeling confident about those plans and those projections, reinforcing those beliefs within us, that there isn't a lot of space for us to see what's really out there. I was watching a video the other day where they were talking about, the innate drive for truth in our experience. And to a certain degree, I agree. It's that sense of what is the absolute truth in this moment. And and let's take a few steps back. Why would that even matter? I tell you what, when you're well over 200 pounds and you tried every other way to try and lose weight or gain health and to try and deal with chronic issues and chronic illness or different inflammation or degenerative diseases, Yeah, you can tell yourself a lot of stories that aren't going to heal your body any faster, better, smoother, or more holistically, just simply by focusing on the stories. And certainly not from external people saying, hey, your body's just fine. Thanks, your blood work came back normal. Thanks, that doesn't help me with the challenges I'm going through. Another example is when you go through a series of unhealthy relationships that leave you more of a shell each time and less of like an awareness of ourselves, a less of an understanding and appreciation for ourselves. And we go, how is this love? What is the truth of that moment, of those situations, and the truth of love in order for me to be able to go, I need a better understanding of where I am in the spectrum of good, bad, and everything in between. And then understanding that those labels don't help anyway. So really, it's an even larger spectrum. And we go, okay, it's the stuff that I'm familiar with and not familiar with. Okay, an even larger spectrum of skilled to unskilled. When we are unskilled in certain things versus skilled in other things, we have a different experience of love. So it really is a rabbit hole, the best kind of rabbit hole, because, and I didn't even come up with like the hardest ones, which have been systemic poverty and financial stress, cortisol that has been stuck there for years and dealing with those traumatic issues, and decades of abuse and assault cycles and patterns that have taken my nervous system all over the place. And you better believe that I've spent well over a decade attending different groups, seeing different professionals, doing tons of research, creating a foundation that would help me to be able to better understand my experience in relation to the research, to understand and walk alongside the data to get a sense of where I fit into other people's stories about what health and wellness is. What is the truth of our experience? So, needless to say, an addiction, boy, like, we can tell ourselves that we're going to do things, and even ADD, ADHD, neurodivergency in that particular respect can be really difficult because we find ourselves imagining, telling stories without being able to connect that to real world actions. And in fact, coping without, by taking more of a focus on holistic approaches such as exercise, diet, and other things that were related to proper maintenance of ADHD or different neurodivergence systems, situations, constructs for us to work within because of how our brain chemistry is. I mean, I could go on about that one. The point is, if we don't attach our thinking, our visioning, our imagining to the real world that we deal with, whether that's 3D, 5D, wherever you are on that spectrum of conversation, the point is that it helps make it real to us. Because there's something in the esoteric and occult information that acknowledges across the board, and even in science and everything else, I love it. Nature is a beautiful one for this, to be able to say, if we have the ability to focus our energy, and I think this is what it comes down to, if we're able to focus our energy, then we can create portals for things to happen. So what's an example of this? Okay, so let's say you have a dream of being able to afford a dream beach house. Then you better have a budget plan and bank accounts to put the money in order for you to be able to save up for that dream. Or a jar with a bunch of pennies to help you get that sense that you are putting money towards this sort of thing. Time, energy towards the dream in order to manifest it into reality. Another example is how we treat our well-being. We will do lots of things in the 3D world in order to manifest good health and well-being. My favorites are when we are encompassing multiple senses, and that allows us to really feel when we are focusing our energy on something. So if you're going through a moment of intense transition, or you realize that you're shifting careers, jobs, groups of friends, diets, routines, rituals, That's why we like to burn incense. That's why we like to go outside for walks in the sunshine. We instill these senses with markers, signposts that allow us to work with our energy and our memory in order to have more powerful supports within that energetic spectrum as we move forward. So, for example, why would I go outside for a walk in the sunshine as a way to reinforce a decision I'm making? Well, we are in the middle of winter, so having excessive sunshine or an hour worth of sunshine from a walk is a very drastic change from the typical sensory bombardment that you've been receiving. Plus, the sun gives off a different energy and spectrum of light, so you are stimulating your brain in different ways, making it more pliable, right? It's like tilling soil before you plant seeds. You're creating opportunities for fertile growth and a more enthusiastic support of the change that you're taking on, of the ideas, of the different processing that you're going through. So, back to where we started with, which is the truth of the situations and giving myself an opportunity to observe things as they're happening, namely my reactions and responses to these things, and understanding where I feel in these things, because that is the 1-2 punch of memory and of our connecting mind, spirit, and body into a singular experience, or into a blended experience, rather. Gotta love a good smoothie. Or blended soup. The idea being that when you want something for yourself, we tend to have this attitude that I know that already. I made it this far, right? Boy, oh boy. And we think that we are smarter than the tools around us, usually by not using them. I can have conversations with coaching and even friends that are asking for advice, and I'm like, why aren't you writing anything down? Your thoughts, your fears, the tools that are at our disposal for us to reflect and see our thinking are still some of the most powerful tools out there. And we get outsmarted by them all the time because we think, oh, my brain will hang on to that. Oh, absolutely, I'll remember that later. Or I will have no problem putting 2 and 2 together. Hello, kitty. I detract for a second there. Hello, honey. So, if you are in a position where you are motivated to make some changes in the last little while, as we, again, like I said, are in a time of upheaval this year, why not give yourself some signposts to mark the journey? I'll tell you about one of the most dramatic signposts I wanted to give myself. I had been sober for about 8 years at that point. A lot of my addiction, substance abuse, and then poverty were intertwined, along with bankruptcy and all of that other fun stuff. And so, needless to say, my upbringing and my teen years and early adulthood of travel dwindled quite quickly. And so my adventures turned into staycations and making the most of what I could within my space that I was living in at the time. And so when I had taken on a new adventure for myself, which was a contract that I wasn't sure I still wanted after years of wanting something like this. And I took it. And, it was in the right place at the right time because I showed up being like, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? I don't know what I was thinking. And, talking myself down off the ledge every day and being like, it's okay, you wouldn't be set up for failure as long as you ask questions and you show that you're willing to learn and you geek out and you learn your tools and you learn the environment and you learn the systems that you're working with. There's an opportunity for you to make good on this and then being able to show up to do the work along the way, right? So I did. I learned the systems, I learned the environment, I learned the people, I learned the tools, I learned all the equipment and everything else like that. And 8 months later, I made it out on the other side. with a little bit of money in my pocket. And so this was actually just after Omicron. Omicron? Gosh, it seems weird. It seems like an old legacy name. But yeah, when COVID was going through Omicron and before Russia invaded Ukraine, I made it out to Cambodia. Hong Kong was shut down. Singaporean airport was shut down to like one terminal. I spent, I think it was, it was ugly, like 17 hours in the Singapore terminal, it was terrible. Like, I had heat pads on my knees. I had heat pads on my back. I was buying all the ointments and tinctures. I was like drinking all the tea. I could barely sleep. Oh, it was wild. But I made it out to Cambodia. Now, why did I want to get out to Cambodia? Because I just proven to myself I could learn a context of a situation that I had not as much familiarity about that I thought I did. I, figured out where I needed to be and who I needed to be in that situation, and I had fun doing it. And so going to Cambodia was this opportunity to, pick up a little bit of the language along the way, figure out if I could situate myself within a week of, am I going to be able to feel familiar? Am I going to have friends? Am I going to have consistent contacts? Am I going to have a base of operations? Am I going to, all of the things that I give myself every day in order to have a sense of stability. I wanted to feel like I knew nothing, and I wanted to be able to know if I could still do it in a situation, in an environment like that. And by the time I left, not only had I made good friends with my guide Piran and met his family and his kid and been able to travel all over Cambodia for these incredible experiences, but a local food market and all of these other different things with a cooking class, being able to channel my inner Indiana Jones and go temple hopping every other day and go just running through these 1,000-year-old ruins, which was like my favorite thing. Oh my gosh. What I needed to do. Oh, standing in a jungle waterfall. That was super cool too. You see, my body changes, my energy changes. I'm able to get back to these experiences and memories and pictures in my mind so vividly that it breaks up the time before of the struggle of getting out of bankruptcy, of rebuilding my credit, of rebuilding myself and identity after years of substance abuse, of the challenges of estrangement from my friends again and again and again as I honed my social skills and learned about good relationships and the type of people that you want around you in order to be able to grow and develop yourself into the type of human being that's able to be present and okay. And as far as goals go, you might not think that that is such an incredible, ostentatious objective for yourself. But I invite you to spend this weekend asking yourself, can I be present and okay? What happens when that occurs? What am I doing when I'm able to experience being present and being okay? And now let me define being present and being okay. So I would say that being present is when you are able to notice the world around you, right? So back to the senses, so you can feel the wind, you can smell the air, you can get a sense of the feeling of the air on your skin, feeling of the clothes on your body, a sense of ease within your body, a sense of, or even being present that you're not at ease. Trust me, that'll work just fine. But you're present in the current state of awareness. Couple of deep breaths really help reinforce this. And then noticing the ease of your shoulders. Are they sitting forward, sitting back? Rocking back and forth in your pelvis and your feet in order to get a sense of equilibrium in your stance or how you're sitting. Being able to roll your shoulders back, roll your shoulders forward. And sometimes, especially if I'm going through chronic pain flare-ups, I'll talk my body down. And I'll be able to kind of relax one part at a time and just be like, hey, my eyes are now relaxed. My cheekbones are now relaxed. My neck is feeling relaxed. And being able to work with your body to go, we're cool, we're here. Because typically we are I got everything to do and I got to do it now, right? Like, so yeah, our objective this weekend is going to be, am I present? Am I okay? And it could be at its best an immediate, yeah, I am present. I am okay. Or it could be this beautiful reminder to give yourself a little compassion, to release what's going on in your brain because it's not important. If it's super important, even then, you can come back to it in 30 seconds. There is nothing going on up here that you can't abandon for 10 seconds, and then you know that you'll come back to it if you need to. Because releasing whatever we're holding on to, those pathways, those repetitions, those neurons are so tightly wound up that it will take practice and a consistent revisiting in order to allow those tightly wound cores of false beliefs or limiting ideas and letting them dissipate. Because we can't go in like we're going to a garden and we're like taking out the weeds. Oh, I love that idea. Like, oh, let's just take that out. That is not how our thinking works. If anything, it's a matter of, putting a little bit of vinegar in the water and waiting for it to dissolve. Being able to notice that whatever it is, that rust, the iron of the anchor that's embedded in the sand of your mind, just kind of dissolving with each pass of the ocean wave. Absolutely. And you'll come to realize that less and less of your life is recognizable like it used to be. And less of your life is going to be something that you anticipate. And it's going to be something that you're not running to get in front of either. And that, I think, is one of the coolest blessings of it so far, where I'm at right now anyway. Because I'm allowing life to surprise me. I'm allowing those around me to be who they need to be without me rushing to judgment. And it's not perfect by any means, but I'm certainly appreciating myself and who I am around those people and those situations now. In fact, I think one of the most poignant pieces that I was just being grateful for a little while ago was the fact that working with the Crappy Childhood Fairy and her daily practice. It's a free course. I'll put the link of it in below as well. And that's actually helped me get to the bottom, the root of more fears and resentments than I ever thought possible, simply by holding space for my processing of those fears and resentments, and then allowing my nervous system to rest and recover in the way that it's necessary due to the upbringing and the history that I've experienced. So yeah, I think that I am incredibly pleased with not knowing what's going to happen tomorrow. And I certainly have my own judgments and projections. Don't get me wrong. Oh, I am sure I know what's going to happen to a certain degree. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to enact that or bring that to wherever I'm going. In fact, I'm going to use that as an opportunity to purposefully hold back and observe to see what happens. Okay, more rainbows. I was realizing that's like a Care Bear stare. I'm dating myself, but that's fine. I mean, if anything, you guys realize that I am no super spring chicken. I am not terribly ancient, but I am certainly not super young either. All the better for it. But that idea of sending you light and love in a full spectrum, because I truly love the idea of rainbows. Because life is like that. We think it's one thing, but it's a multitude of things that we have no understanding of or are slowly working towards. So, back to it. I love you. I appreciate you. I hope you've appreciated or enjoyed this reminder. I am not putting like, I hope you appreciated my lesson today. No, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had a little bit of a laugh and a smile and an appreciation for the week that you just got through, and and enjoy our time together in a way that lifts you up and makes the most of your weekend ahead, so that you're able to get some restful moments along the way, calming your nervous system, being present with those around you, and making the most of it. So, yeah, because I want that for you. You absolutely deserve that. And I think giving yourself an opportunity to hear reminders like these simply reinforces its value for you, which is a beautiful thing. And I absolutely want that for you. So, until next time, we'll talk soon.